and via Microsoft Teams. This meeting will be live streamed and a recording made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images and audio of those individuals present and or speaking at Planning Committee will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council website. Please can I remind all members joining remotely to leave their cameras on during the meeting and to use the hands up function on Teams when you wish to speak. For those members joining in the chamber, please also use the hands up function on Teams and turn on the chamber microphone when you wish to speak. Votes for this meeting will be taken via Microsoft Forms. When a vote is required, the form will appear on your screen, and then members will be asked to click on yes, no, or abstain, and then click on submit vote. I'll now carry out a roll call for attendance. Please can you announce yourselves as present when I call out your name. Councillor Adams.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Aldworth, she sent her apologies. Councillor Angel.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Chapman.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Dix.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Eade.
I'm a Chair.
Councillor Fussell.
Hello.
Councillor Hussey.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Miles.
Present.
Councillor Powell.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Simmons. No, he's sent his apologies. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Williams.
Present.
Councillor Whitcomb.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Woodland.
Present, Chair.
And myself. And the Cabinet Member, Councillor Leonard.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Right, so we are quorate. So please can I, thank you for confirming your attendance. Please can I remind members that if you lose connection during the meeting, please make every effort to attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as it remains quorate. Committee services are on hand and will be available to assist you to reconnect if necessary. We now move on to agenda item 1, which is to receive apologies. And I've received 2 apologies, Councillor Julian Simmons and Councillor Liz Aldworth. All other members are present in the meeting. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interest in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Are there any declarations? Councillor Fussell?
Yeah, Chair, on this second item as published, I'm declaring interest as I know the individual and have been a working colleague in past, and I did declare an interest at the last application. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Fussell, can I check, is that a personal and prejudicial interest and you'll be leaving on that item?
Yes, you better
Yeah.
well, it's the last item, I believe, so
Yeah,
I will-
okay.
It's one and both. Yes, it would be. Thanks.
Lovely. Okay, thanks very much.
Councillor Eade, you've got your hand up as well.
Yeah, similar to Councillor Fussell, I've asked for advice from the monitoring officer on this as it's in my ward. I know the individual, and previously my daughter had worked at the farm shop. She now does not work any longer. And so I asked the monitoring officer whether it was an interest or not, and he said it wasn't, but I'm still a little bit unsure whether I should declare an interest or not. I probably should, I think.
You advise, Lisa?
Yeah, Councillor Reid, I recall the conversation and I understand the focus was more on your daughter and whether or not she worked or volunteered at the premises. You
Yeah,
say
she-
that the applicant are known to you or friends. Would you say they were close personal?
No, not
associates?
friends. No, only because their business is located in our ward. We've as councillors we've obviously dealt with communicate with them before, but
Right. And you wouldn't say there's no predetermination issue. It's just you know the business from being in your ward.
yeah, that's correct. My
Yeah.
daughter hasn't worked there since she started school back at early September.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it's a matter for you, but I would say that there would be no interest to declare on the information you've provided. But obviously, it's a matter for you if you feel that you wish to declare.
On the balance of what you've said tonight, I probably won't declare an interest then.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
and Councillor Christian Woodland.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to raise my prejudicial interest against the first item on the agenda and to predetermine myself, and I'll be speaking against the item.
Okay, when that item comes up, I understand you're going to speak, so you transfer yourself to the other side of the chamber.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we move on first of all to the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting being held on 11th September 2024. That's pages 1 to 3 in the pack. I'll go through them quickly. First, page 1, page 2, and page 3. Will somebody move? You move. Thank you, Councillor Angel. Is it seconded? And
I'll
it's been
second, Chair.
seconded. Can we have a vote and slip then, please?
Yeah, those minutes are carried, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, now we move on then to the first item, planning item on the agenda, which is agenda item 4. It's application number 24/0591 NCC. It's Crumlin Institute Buildings, Crumlin Square, Crumlin, and the case officer is Anthony Pine. Anthony, can you make the presentation, please?
Thank you, Chair. I will just share my screen with the presentation.
Sorry, did you have your hand up, Mr. Powell?
I did share, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. In respect of item 2 on the agenda, rather than item 1, or the second matter that we're discussing tonight, the Meadows, it's my understanding that Councillor Eade may have made a representation on the application already in writing, which may be seen as being prejudicial.
That's why I emailed the monitoring officer to ask his advice on that specific issue, and the monitoring officer told me I didn't have a prejudicial interest, which I've verbally confirmed tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Eade, I'm not sure that that was clear. I've seen those exchange of emails, but on the information that you've presented tonight, I would suggest that you don't take part in the decision on the Meadows on that basis, based on the fact that you are predetermined.
That's fine, and that's why I originally asked the question.
Yeah, okay.
And
Okay,
was
so
given
that's
the
been
advice.
clarified then. So we can now go to agenda item 4. Mr. Pine.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. This application seeks to amend the approved plans and waste storage conditions on planning consent 230347/COU, which itself approved the change of use to 8 numbered residential flats within the Crumlin Institute building. The original application was presented to the April Planning Committee and was approved by members. The principle of the conversion of the ground and first floors to residential use was therefore established by this earlier permission. I have to advise members that following the completion of the officer report for this agenda, the agent contacted the planning department and advised that they wish to revise the proposed mix of accommodation. So the existing planning permission approved the conversion of the ground and first floors to a total of 8 number 1-bedroom flats. The committee report before you details a changed mix to 6 number 1-bedroom flats and 2 number 2-bedroom flats. However, as I've indicated, following the completion of the officer report, the agent advised that they wished to amend the proposed mix to 4 number 1-bedroom flats and 4 number 2-bedroom flats. So this mix of 4 1-bedroom flats and 4 2-bedroom flats is what members are being asked to consider tonight. I will go through the slides with members to explain the proposal and the context. So just to refresh, obviously this came to Planning Committee not too long ago. This aerial photograph shows Crumlin. If you can see you can see the hand cursor. That's just over the Institute building, which is a broadly triangular shaped building. This is a wide. I have a closer aerial photograph, but this shows in context in the centre of Crumlin with the A467, which if you're going north at the top of the photo, you're going up to Llanhilleth, and the major road, the 472 Hafodranys, is shown sort of going to the top right of the photo. Zooming in, again, the Institute building, the broadly triangular shaped building on the square with a mix of sort of commercial buildings. You've got the Railway Hotel to the north, a number of outlets to the east down to the Wexer Club, I believe, with Main Street to the west there. That's just a site plan which is pretty similar to the aerial photographs with the building there. So the existing lower ground floor would remain the same, apart from there is indicated an area for bin storage in blue. There's an existing mix of sort of shops and some empty units there. If members are minded to approve the application, it is, however, considered that a condition is required to enable the applicant to provide full details of bin storage prior to the occupation for residential use. The existing ground floor layout is coming up before members there. This is the proposed ground floor plan. So previously, this would have had 4 1-bedroom flats. The mix that members are being asked to consider tonight is 2 number 2-bedroom flats and 2 number 1-bedroom flats on the ground floor. And that's the existing first floor plan. And the proposed first floor broadly replicates the ground floor in, again, having a layout for 2 number 2-bedroom flats and 2 number 1-bedroom flats. Members may recall that the previous application sought also to have some external alterations to the building. Those contained broadly 2 windows on the northern side elevation at the top floor level, known as first, or described as first floor level. This revised proposal omits those windows, so the fenestration would remain as existing in the building. The other rear elevation also previously had an additional window at first floor level that is omitted from this revised proposal. However, all habitable rooms utilise existing windows, so the layout is deemed acceptable. This is just some site photographs. This is the front of the building, and as you can see, and as I've described, there would be no sort of material alterations to the external appearance with this revised proposal. There you can see the omission of those 2 windows, so that would be on the northern side elevation exactly the same. And this is just a shot of the area with the building in the background along with the hotel. And this is a shot picking up the rear elevation on Main Street. As was previously described with the earlier application, you've got the lower ground floor level, which is around the front of the building, and access to the rear of the building is at the ground floor level rather than the lower ground floor on the rear. And there's an error come up. I think that's hopefully sufficient photographs for members to refamiliarise themselves with the building in question. So as noted, there would be no fenestration alterations in this application. The impact on surrounding properties is considered to be acceptable as it was in the earlier application. So it's still considered to accord with policy CW2 on amenity. The application was advertised via a site notice and neighbour notification letters. An objection was received from a member of the public and a local councillor based on the earlier mix of flats. However, the matters raised in objection broadly relate to parking problems in the area, and that this proposal will further impact on parking. So it's considered that the late amendment to the proposed mix wouldn't draw any different issues because the issues of parking are what are the main crux of the objections received. Advice has been sought from the transportation engineering manager on the latest mix, and it's been confirmed that there are no highway objections to the latest plans. The environmental health officer, who I don't think we had a response within the timescale for the original committee report, has since reviewed the latest plans and advised that there are no objections to this proposal. So the key issue really is in respect of parking. Members may recall from the earlier application, there are no dedicated parking spaces for the building. And this was considered in the earlier application, noting that the lawful use of the ground and first floors for office use of the building would have a much higher parking demand than would be required for 8 flats. At the April Planning Committee, members were minded to approve the development on having regard for this. Now, because of the sustainable location of the building within the centre of Crumlin, the transportation engineering manager considers that the change to 2-bedroom residential units, which would normally require 2 parking spaces, would qualify for a reduction in parking requirements on sustainability grounds, equivalent to that of a 1-bedroom residential unit, which normally requires 1 space. So the change of mix from 2-bedroom, because it is a sustainable location close to a range of services, would ordinarily qualify for a reduction to 1 parking space. And because of the existing lawful use of the building as an office, there would be a much higher demand than residential use. So the change from 1-bedroom to 2-bedroom units on this site, in accordance with our supplementary planning guidance, doesn't actually require additional parking because it's within a sustainable location, which qualifies for a reduction on the 2-bed units. It's therefore considered that the development accords with policy CW3 highways. If members are minded to approve the application tonight, because of the late substitution of plans, it's requested that authority is given to officers to amend the plan numbers to reflect the latest plans within the plans condition on the officer report. So the development is considered to be acceptable and is recommended for approval, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pine. We now have representations from local members and from the applicant. And the local member first, Councillor Carl Thomas, is going to speak on behalf of local residents. Can I remind everybody that you're just allowed 5 minutes to make a presentation? Okay, and Councillor Thomas, you can start whenever you wish.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Officers, members, here we are again. I'll keep it brief and on the issue of parking. Given the application was granted on the 16th of April, I find it quite bizarre that we are back with another application. If committee remembers photographs shown by the developer in relation to parking issues, these were taken during COVID and I believe to be misleading. My fellow ward member distributed photographs to committee, the true scale of the parking issues around Crumlin Square. Taking a practical approach, I would think that at least 4 more parking spaces of an already very limited space. The application officer stressed the lack of 1-bedroom apartments in the last meeting, and committee made their decision accordingly. This is now not the case, and hope committee takes the issue with parking that residents of Crumlin have to deal with on a daily basis, the businesses, the shops, the pharmacies, the doctors, the pubs, and the others. And I do apologise for this, Chair, but anybody who knows the area, the site photographs are very misleading. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. And the second speaker is local member, Councillor Christian Woodland. Would you like to make your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Right, whilst I take on board the professional opinion of the Highways officers, myself and Councillor Thomas have met with concerned residents regarding this application. They have concerns regarding the lack of parking in the surrounding areas. I note that the original application was approved for the 1-bedroom flats, but now the application is changed for 2 bedrooms and 4 1-bedroom flats to this development. Further rooms will surely add to the further car parking spaces that might be needed in the area. I have seen firsthand the difficulty in parking as I regularly visit the site, the square myself, and there is severe difficulties with parking issues down in this area. Previously, I've submitted photographs from a regular day, but these seem to be omitted from the slides today. Perhaps it may have been a good idea to have had a site visit for members to really appreciate the congestion in the area and how it can be and how it affects residents and users to this area. I feel there is not current adequate parking in the area, and I'm convinced that if this application was to go ahead, this would further increase the number of vehicles that will make this even more difficult for the local businesses and other in the area. I also have concerns regarding traffic movement and difficulties which are seen concerning bins and storage, refusal and collection. I feel there isn't much space for the storage of waste in the area for bins, etc. And I think that this would just make matters worse on bin collection days. I hope that members here tonight will take on board my concerns and that of my fellow ward member, Councillor Thomas, and I hope that you would reject this application based on valid planning reasons that I've drawn to your attention today. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Woodland. And now the applicant, Mr. Michael Osborne. Can you make your presentation, please?
Yes, great. Thank you. You can hear me. Yeah, I'm Michael Osborne. I'm the current owner of the project in development that we're looking at. Just to explain the situation of why it's come back into planning, we purchased a building in July after the original owners, Lanover Estates, obtained the planning for the 8 1-bedroom flats. So I really appreciate everybody's time. The planning committee, councillors and any members of the public that are present. I can't quite see everyone's on Teams, so I just thought I'd cover all bases. So as we said, we purchased the building off Lanover and Larth Estates. We spent a lot of time up at the Crumlin Institute building over the last couple of months looking at plans, and we've come to realise that we need to make some adjustments for a couple of reasons, and the main reason, well, two main reasons for making adjustments are to maintain structural integrity. The original plans had a lot of required structural work to the building, which would weaken the structure, and secondly, we ask for support for the extra bedrooms to have a more diverse tenant type. We're a very small company based in Cwmbran, family run, and a couple of close friends are involved as well. And our primary goal is to provide good homes for good people. We will look to let these apartments out at the end and provide more homes for people in the local area. As I mentioned as well, the adding of the bedrooms, although the planning department rightly say that they expect a space per bedroom, as also someone that manages and lets out property, I'm also quite aware of demand of people and different tenant types that we see across Cwmbran, Newport, Pontypool and surrounding areas. With a higher increase of people looking for a second bedroom to use as an office working from home, that is quite in high demand at the moment. And also we feel adding the extra bedrooms will allow families to live in the building, because you could then potentially have a single parent and a child living there, or both parents and a child living in the flats. So it'll give accommodation opportunities to families that are struggling to find places to live. Through the research of what we've done to get the building ready for conversion, we've found that we've started to advertise, and some of you'll see from the local area, we've got an advertising board for the commercial premises. We are attracting a lot of attention from local businesses, which is fantastic. However, they are cash strapped, and they need some support with the commercial units, refurbing them. Normally with a commercial unit, you would lease it out and then the commercial tenant would make improvements and modify it for the business that they want to put in there. So we're looking to apply some of our budget to improve the commercial units by improving fronts, making them clean, fresh, with new floorings, ready for people to move in. And that's something that we're going to need to now put money into to make that happen. I have reached out to Caerphilly Council and have spoken to some people in the funding department, which have had some great interactions. However, the short of it is, even though on the site of it seems there's funds available to support regeneration and refurbishment of commercial premises, at present there's a waiting list and there's no funds available. For me, the suggested improvements will help us with a tenant type and people living in the building, and also the increase in bedrooms will slightly increase the value of the property at the end, which will help us financially pay for the commercial elements and refurbs that are required. Since we've been on site, we've spent a lot of time with the local people in the local businesses. We've made interactions with Sean, the shopkeeper, and some other businesses who've actually been proactively recommending commercial tenants for us. So yeah, there are people also that are happy to see this building being brought back to life. So the building is actually 100 years old this year. And it was built in 1924. I would really urge for some support for this to allow us to continue the building to go on for many more tens, hopefully another 100 years. But we would require approval of these plans to make that happen. Thank you for your time and appreciate everyone listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Osborne. I don't know whether officers would like to respond to any of the statements that have been made, or would you rather wait for further questions? Mr. Pine?
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, I think bin storage was mentioned, as I alluded to in my opening comments. There is a planning condition, and that is worded notwithstanding the existing plans, that we'd require full details of bin storage. So it's considered that can be adequately addressed. In terms of the photographs shown, it was a mix. There was site photographs dating from this year. Also street view images which have a bit of a wider angle. They are the latest available on Google, which date from 2021. So yes, potentially during sort of pandemic issues. it is known that there is sort of parking congestion in the area, and I think that was brought up in the earlier application. So just to say, we've used the latest sort of Google Street View images available, but just to say that they did date from 2021.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pine. We have two people that want to contribute to questions. First of all, Councillor Dix, and then Councillor Shane Williams, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I know the area quite well. I used to work there when it was a youth club, and in the evening time from 6 o'clock, and it was very congested then, and it remains very congested. It's a very small area. It's got a couple of takeaways there, I believe, and different things that got traffic coming back and forth. I don't think the area is suitable really for this, because there is people in flats are going to have cars. They are going to have visitors who will stay and pop in and want to see the different tenants and residents there. You know, we have to deal with reality here. You know, the developer talks a good game, but in reality, you know, it's going to be very difficult for people to maneuver around there and find parking spaces, and that will result in people parking illegally or having arguments over parking spaces. You know, it's going to be very congested. That's the reality of it. I understand that Welsh Government want to drive cars off the road and want to build them out of the street scene, etc. That's all in their plans. I've read them through thoroughly. But the reality is that people do need cars to go to work. They do need cars to get around, and they will need them for a long time to come in the future. And this application is like I said, is unrealistic in that area, and it's not practical as well. So I'll be voting against it.
Okay, I don't think there was a question amongst that, but did any officer want to respond to that? No? Okay. Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I'll come back after Councillor Williams raised his points.
Okay, okay. And Shane Powell, say Williams, sorry, I keep on getting names mixed up, I beg your pardon.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I can probably prejudge what Carwyn's going to say to me, but I think that Councillor Dix has a point. But I'm a bit concerned about when it says in page 9, it says that it's indicated, the Transportation Engineering Manager has indicated that the demand for parking would be unchanged. Is that the view of the 4-bedroomed, the 4 2-bedroomed plan? Is that in response to that, or is that in response to the single-bedroomed?
So, yeah, as it's written in the officer report, it was obviously at the time where it was 6 1-bedroom and 2 2-bedroom. However, following the revised plans that came in after the committee report was completed, we went back to Highways, and they confirmed that on the latest mix of 4 1-bed, 4 2 beds, they still would have no objection and would consider the demand the same, given the sustainable location.
I know at the last meeting it was discussed, or it was suggested, that the existing office space had theoretical demand for parking, therefore we couldn't refuse it because of that existing number of parking spaces that was likely to be available. But I think in reality, I think the applicant has said that people will be working from home and there'll be families. And I don't think the office space has been used for 2 years, and I think people can travel to a work in a different way. I think that it is very much an impact. I'm surprised that they say that it won't be changed, especially if the applicant is saying people will be working from home. Then that means the every likelihood that those parking spaces are going to be in greater demand. And I think I recall that when we've been referred to other places that have said there's affordable housing scheme, that car parking spaces are not necessarily warranted in the way that they would be otherwise. In this instance, there is no affordable housing, so that I think that the ever likelihood, and the reality is, as Councillor Dick said, that more of these people are likely to have cars. And if we can increase to 4 2-bedroom properties, then that car usage is likely to increase again. So that is a very real concern. But I do remember what was said to us before, and I take it that still stands.
Chair, it might. I can see Lisa Cooper from Highways has a hand up. So
yeah. Yes, would you like to come in, Lisa, and make your comments?
Oh yeah, having technical difficulties there, second, sorry. Yeah, so we fully appreciate, you know, there is existing high parking demand in the vicinity, obviously catering for existing residents down Crown Street, for instance, and the existing businesses and visitors and deliveries and what have you. I checked again since April committee, I checked again with our traffic management colleagues, and we fully appreciate, you know, it is a very busy area in terms of parking demand. But in terms of actual parking contravention notices, there have only been 3 sort of fines issued since January 2023, and they were on 2 on Crown Street and 1 on Whitethorn Street. So, sort of none in the immediate vicinity of the building. Obviously, there would be overspill potentially. I mean, the problem we have with this one, the existing 2 floors which are to be converted, fully appreciate they're empty at the moment. But if they were maxed out with their extant uses, as a mixture of like offices, there's like a hall, a cafe, sort of teaching space, I think it would come in the region of like 45 to 49 spaces on paper. Obviously, it's all hypothetical. And the fact, you know, this one, even though they've increased the sort of altered the bedroom mix you know, at this late stage, it is in a very sustainable location. So what we have a post office sort of directly underneath the pharmacy, like 20 meters away, doctor's surgery and a primary store, and a right adjacent to a very well served sort of bus stop. So it's got a really strong sustainability criteria. So what I'm getting at, I think if this was refused and it went to appeal, I think given the sort of the extant use and the parking demand that would attract, I think it'd be very, very difficult sort of for us to argue against it at appeal. You know, bearing in mind as well, sort of the appeal which was granted in Cross Keys, you know, which was not in a sustainable location, even though the planning inspector insisted it was. So yeah, I mean, like it is quite constrained now, and obviously the tenure, then changing it from sort of commercial to residential, sort of the times of parking demand would probably alter as well. So you'd probably get greater sort of daytime demand with existing use. There would probably be more little nighttime demand with the proposed. That's our position on it. Really, it'd be very difficult for us to sort of argue that at the appeal. That's how we feel. That's what I've got to say. Really, any more questions or?
I think Carwyn Power wants to come in as well. Perhaps if need be, if you want to come back in afterwards, Lisa, or answer any questions that members might put forward. Carwyn?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I don't want to be seen to be stifling debate here. I appreciate members want to discuss these issues, and it's a long-held concern of theirs that car parking isn't necessarily considered in the way that they would like. What I would remind members here is that we do have a planning consent in place here for the conversion of this building to 8 one-bedroom flats. That requires 8 parking spaces. In accordance with the SPG, which is an adopted SPG that this council in itself has adopted. This is not set out to us by Welsh Government. This is a document which we as an authority have written and have adopted as members as well. The requirement for the proposed development is still 8 parking spaces. Members have to make a decision on this application having regard for the fallback position of an existing lawful development there for 8 dwellings, for 8 units, which requires 8 parking spaces. Exactly the same number as the proposed development as far as our SPG is concerned. Any decision which is contrary to that, as Lisa has just suggested, we would have significant difficulties in defending that at appeal. Notwithstanding that, you've got the existing lawful use there, whether it's vacant or not. That doesn't mean that it can't be occupied tomorrow for office use, as I think the numbers were something like 47 parking spaces requirement. You know, we are significantly lower than that. Even if we required the 12 parking spaces that are required for a mix of 4 1 and 4 bed 2 spaces, we would still be 30 odd spaces spare on this unit. Any decision contrary to an approval of this application, I think members would be looking at losing an appeal and even the possibility of costs against us as well. I don't want to, as I say, I don't want to stifle debate, but I have to, as a professional officer, advise members what I see as the best way forward from a planning perspective in respect to this application. And the only way I can see forward with this one is to approve the application, having regard for the fallback position of the lawful use of the building and the fallback of the approved development as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Power. Councillor Hussey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got to agree with Councillor Thomas and Councillor Woodland on the photographs that was presented to committee. I know Crumlin very, very well, and I've never, ever seen it that empty. Obviously, they must have been taken in COVID times. But to go back to again to the parking situation, the applicant said that with the two-bedroom apartments, that they could attract a single parent with a child. It could also attract a family with parents with, say, just say 2 18, 19-year-old boys or girls who would have cars. So where a one-bedroom flat would probably attract one car, that could possibly attract 3 or 4 cars. So as I said, I know Crumlin very well, and the parking situation there is dire at the best of times. And those photographs were really misleading for committee members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hussey. I don't think the photographs were meant to mislead people. We're all aware from previous photographs we've seen when we approved the last application that it is a congested area. There's no doubt about that. But whether that would stand up as reasons for refusal is another matter. I did see other hands up, but they've gone back down. Councillor Dix, I think you did put your hand back up, did you or not? You're muted. And
yeah, sorry, Chair. Yeah, I was just questioning the officers on the parking fines that are issued, very low. I think we can all agree that we don't have ample parking wardens to enforce adequately across the county borough, whether it's Blackwood, Caerphilly, Bargoed, Aberbargoed, Risca, etc. They're very few and far between. They're like hen's teeth, as they say, you know, parking wardens. They dip in and out of the town. When I drive through Blackwood, I see dozens of cars that are parking illegally, and it's very, you know, it's very sparse, the coverage of a warden. So I wouldn't base an argument on that, if you know, in reality. Thank you.
I'm not saying that, you know, that other offences don't take place. Obviously, I'm not aware of how frequently our CEOs visit Crumlin, for instance, and sometimes they're reactive, you know, if we get complaints. But to be honest, I don't know how often they do visit Crumlin, but, you know, they have confirmed, you know, that the Crown Street car park is always busy, you know, the parking bays are always busy. So we do know sort of the existing demand. So, yeah, it is quite problematic there at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Got Councillor Mansell-Powell and then Councillor Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's not a parking question, really. I'm just looking at the layouts, and I was looking at apartment 3. And obviously adding the extra bedrooms. Are these areas really suitable for a family? You know, if you look at the apartment 3 with the kitchen, the bathroom coming off the layout, you know, the bedroom 2 is looks small and the drawings no sizes. Are they really suitable, or is it quality housing we provide in here in this? You know, I had the parking issue with the first one. Okay, you know, that was fully explained to us, but this new layout is a totally different layout to before, I understand, yeah? And I'm just concerned, really, that apartment 3 is probably the typical example where the bathroom and the kitchen are all in the one room. And I was just wondering what the recommendations, or whether the planning take is on that square footage.
Okay, perhaps we can get some clarification on that now, Councillor Power.
Our environmental health team have looked at the layout. I did also do some checks on some of the bedroom sizes. I live in a 1930s house, and the box room in there, they are larger than that. They're at least sort of 2.5 meters by 2.5. In terms of that layout, I think yeah, it is a kitchen diner on that apartment 3. There is a separate bathroom there, so there is a door off off that living area. That living area is quite generous, I think. And as I say, our environmental health team have looked at it and raised no objections to the layout. So it's considered to be suitable.
Was there anything else, Councillor Power?
Yeah, again, it's just this quality of housing and provision. You know, they may not feel, they may feel it's just about suitable, but looking at it, I just don't see that as a suitable area for a family of potentially 4 people. And a few of the other layouts are similar. Apartment 3, it probably looks the worst. You know, we went with the 1 bedrooms, and you know, even though we had the plan issues, I went along with that, but I got concerns on the layout with this one.
I think in the pre-meeting we had, the environmental health officer was concerned about part of the layout in terms of whether fire exits were correct in terms of them having to go through the kitchen to get to the exits. Was that clarified? Other than that, I don't think they raised any concern.
Yes, Chair. After that pre-meet, I did receive an email from the environmental health officer who had spoken to colleagues, and they felt it was acceptable and had sufficient natural lighting and raised no further issues.
Okay, that sort of answers the query, Councillor Powell.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you want to come back at all? No. Okay, Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Chair. I remember the discussions that we had back in April about car parking at that time being an issue. And yes, it would be at some times during the day. I don't know normally about the evenings, but if we had 8 single bedroom flats, we could still have 16 adults there with cars off to work in the mornings, still with a car each. It could be as much as that, the demand that would be required or hoped for. And the discussions that we've had really about how many cars there might be with different circumstances is really very, very iffy about how we go forward. But we could have had as many as 16 cars, which is often just from single bedroom flats in that position. And we'd have had at least the same issue that we might have now. Are we past that? And from the comments that we've had about what might be there if we had all offices being used by different people coming and going during the day, I don't think we're at really any different position to that one that we accepted back in April. So it might be unpopular, but I will be voting for the officer's recommendations.
Okay,
I will propose it when we come to that point.
Okay, well, you can propose, you can do that now if you wish. I mean, it's not going to stifle debate.
I will, if I can have a seconder then.
So it has been moved that we adopt, but I'm not going to stifle debate on it if there's anybody else that wants to come back in. Is it seconded at all? Is there a seconder for?
Yeah, I second it, Chair.
It's been seconded. Okay, moved and seconded. Councillor Dix, you still wanted to come back in?
Yeah, just on another point that was just raised then, Chair, regarding the fire exit. Is a clarification can I have on that? That you said the fire exit was through the kitchen. And if that is the case, wouldn't the kitchen be the most likely place where a fire would break out, rather than the bathroom, or the living room, or the hallway, or a bedroom? I would say that the kitchen would be the most likely place a fire would break out. So just confirmation that on that really, that if the fire exit is through the kitchen, what happens if the kitchen's on fire? We don't want a Grenfell on our hands, do we? We don't want a place to be burned down and people can't get out. I think that we, that's the least we've got to do is make sure that people are safe in there. Thank you.
That matter has been clarified by environmental health. They have looked at that and they accepted it as it is, no problem.
So you're saying, Chair, that the fire exit is through the kitchen?
Sorry,
is that what you're saying?
Environmental health have no objection to the present layout.
Can you just
Councillor Dix.
confirm if the fire exit is through the kitchen or not, please?
If I could come in, Chair, on
Yeah.
the matter, as you've already suggested, the matter has been considered by the officers from Public Health. I won't give the officer's name, but the officer deals with these matters for the Public Health team, and he has confirmed that the fire exit in the way provided as part of the plans is acceptable. Notwithstanding that, fire safety and fire exits are matters for the building regulations and not a planning matter. We couldn't justify refusing the application on the basis of whether there is a safe means of access for fire as part of a development. If there's not, then building regulations wouldn't grant a completion certificate, and it would be then for the developer to come back to the planning department and seek either a non-material amendment or a variation to the planning approval to deal with that issue. But it's certainly not a planning matter whether there's an adequate access for fire escape as part of this development.
So
Okay,
you're
thank
not
you,
going to
Mr.
tell.
Powell.
So you're not going to tell me if it's through the kitchen then.
Yeah,
That's a
the
simple
access is through the
question,
kitchen,
through the kitchen?
but that is considered
That's
to be
all I wanna
acceptable
know.
by
Yeah.
Public Health.
Okay.
And
So you're
it's
not going to
further
tell
than
me
that,
if
it's
it's
a
through the
matter for
kitchen?
building
Just a minute.
Okay.
I've got two people speaking at the same time. Are you finished your comment, Mr. Power? Okay, you wanted to come back and make another statement, Councillor Dix?
Yeah, I just want clarification where the fire exit will be. Is it through the kitchen? That's all I asked for.
Yeah, well, that's
if
what's
officers
been
could
said
answer
it
that,
is. Yeah.
that'd be good.
Okay. Ryan, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, just one final point, really. This site is probably one of the most sustainable locations for residential development. I mean, the cornerstone of the planning system, planning policy, is to promote sustainable development, and this is a sustainable form of development. We're constantly attempting to improve and revitalise our town centres. Serious concerns about impacts on town centres through following COVID in terms of retailing and so on. Residential development close to town centres has mutual benefits for the occupiers as well as businesses and town centres themselves. So, it's a fundamental part of policy. It's the direction we're going in. We're trying to encourage far more mixed uses close to and within our town centres for sustainable reasons, and to try and reinvigorate our communities, our town centres, our retail, our commercial cores. So it's an important point to recognise. We will have more and more of these types of developments coming forward, carless developments in highly sustainable locations. I think Lisa mentioned the previous appeal we had in Cross Keys, where planning permission was refused because of the lack of car parking, and obviously that was allowed an appeal for the reasons I've just indicated. So I just want to emphasise that we have a long debate about the car parking issues, and we will come across this time and time again. But I think members need to recognise the direction of travel and the clear benefits associated with getting more mixed uses within town centres and accepting that there won't be car parking for these types of developments. That's a positive thing moving forward. Okay,
obviously, it's something we have to take on board. Councillor Dix, you wanted to come in again?
Yeah, I just note the fact that no one's going to tell me if it's through the kitchen or confirm that. I think that it's very sad that you can't come forward with that information. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, it has been moved and seconded. We've had a mover, so we can put this to the vote.
Can I just ask Mr. Pine to repeat that extra
Oh, yes.
recommendation?
The extra recommendation, Mr. Pine, if you could repeat that so we're clear on it.
Yes, Chair. So if members are minded to approve the application, it's requested that authority is given to officers to amend the plans condition to reflect the details of the latest plans.
Okay. So recommendation that permission be granted subject to the conditions and that clarification as well. Can we have the voting slip on it, please? Lisa, could you announce the result of the vote?
Yeah, Chair, the recommendations in the report and that additional recommendation for Mr Pine have been carried 7 for, 3 against and 2 abstentions.
Okay, thank you. So now we move on to the next item, which is agenda item 5. I don't know whether you wish to leave before we start, or you're going to stay? Okay. So this application number 5, agenda item number 5, is application 24/0557 NCC. It's the Meadows Farm Village Retreat, the Meadows, Gypsy Lane, Croswain, Cardiff, and the case officer for this is Helen Windsor. Helen, can you make your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll just share my screen. Right, thank you. This is another application for variation of condition. It's at the Meadows Farm Village Retreat in Boyce Glen. Members may recall that retrospective planning permission was granted to this site in June of this year. For retention of its use as a farm park. There was also consent within that for further buildings to be erected on the site. Members may wish to note that actually the location plan that is within the agenda pack is actually incorrect, and unfortunately there was a plotting error on this. The plan that's actually shown on screen is the correct location plan for the site. And that mirrors the plan that was submitted as part of the previous application on this. So I just show you the aerial photograph on this. I don't know how well you can see it, but obviously in considering what we are considering here, which is an extension of the opening hours, the consideration of neighbour amenity is important. There is a neighbouring residential property to the southeast of the site. If you can see the nursery buildings that exist to the south of the site there, the neighbouring property is by there. There's also a cluster of properties to the southwest of the site, a further property a little bit further away to the southeast, and it's not on this photograph. But there are also some properties as well further to the north in Gypsy Lane as well. And if you have a look at this aerial photograph, I've outlined the site in red on there. It just shows a little bit of the wider context of the site as well on this. We've got a few site photographs on here. There's a car park here in the entrance to the site. So photos from animal enclosures and the building, which at the moment is being used as a cafe and I believe an office use as well. If you look at this one, there's on the right hand photograph is again photos of more animal enclosures. The one on the left is worth pointing out as there is a light trail at the site, and part of the point of the extending the hours is to get greater use out of the light trail. The photograph on the left just gives an example of one of the structures that will be the light trail. So again, I don't know as to how well you can see the photograph there, but it's essentially a sort of a framed arch structure with lights in between the frame, which just allows people to walk on the path through it. In terms of what we're considering here, I think it's worth providing a little bit of background to this application, just so members are quite clear what the recommendation is. on this application. So when this was granted planning permission back in June, it was subject to a condition that the opening hours would be between 9 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Initially, when the applicant applied for the application we have sitting before us here, they applied for an extension of opening hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. With a further variation to allow events up to 52 times a year, which could potentially sort of finish at up to 11:30 in the evening. There was sort of concerns of raised about this from environmental health regarding the potential impact of that on neighbour amenity, and also our transport engineers with regard to events, the potential for transport impacts about a lot of cars turning up and leaving at once, and the levels of parking. There was also a concern from a planning perspective that there is a condition on the planning permission which requires all activities to be taking place on the site to be incidental to the use of the farm park, and that some of the events which were being considered, such as parties and the wedding reception, we are aware that have been held on the site, may not be considered as incidental to that use as a farm park. So as a result of this, the events aspect has been withdrawn from the application and withdrawn from the description. And what we are considering now is an extension to the hours for the general use of the farm park as such. Neighbour amenity obviously is still a consideration for that. And being mindful of the fact that we have had some objections on those grounds to this application, and also that we do not have a noise survey or management plan. It's recommended that instead of the 9 o'clock that has been applied for, that the extension should be just till 8 o'clock in the evening, for a temporary period of a year only. Obviously, 8 o'clock is not getting quite so much into the late evening as 9 o'clock is. And also the temporary period for a year will allow the situation to be monitored as well in terms of whether there's any impacts. In that condition, there's also a requirement that the last opening time should be no later than 6:30 p.m. A condition is also recommended in respect of there being no amplified music or external plant in use after 6:30 p.m. In respect of highway safety, because this will be just the extension of the hours for the general use of the farm park, there's no significant concerns in relation to highway safety in relation to that. In respect to the lighting and the light trail, due to concerns regarding potential impact on ecology, obviously we've got to be mindful of the fact that when it gets darker in the evening, there may well be nocturnal species such as bats using some of the tree lines on site. So there's quite a significant level of tree coverage around this site, and also considering impacts on neighbours as well. It is considered that some of the lights were lighting that has been proposed on the site would be acceptable for them to carry on with, subject to it being limited to an output of 15 lux only, but also that if there was any further lighting required, that we would need further detail of that, and a condition has been recommended to cover that issue as well. So that's where we are with it, subject to the conditions that I've outlined. This has been recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I've got indication from two members. First of all, Councillor Mansell Powell, and then Councillor Shane Williams.
Yeah, sorry, there's really a query really. On page 20, it talks about limiting the light levels and noise levels after 6:30. And on page 19, it says, addition of further variation allow 52 independent bespoke private events I was just wondering what 52 bespoke private events would be with limited light and limited noise.
The 52 bespoke private events is the bit that has been withdrawn for the application. There were concerns raised about this for the reasons just outlined. That's why they have been withdrawn. So we are no longer considering that precisely because there will be concerns about the things that you have just raised.
So when you're not considering the 52.
No, we're not. No.
No pop concerts. No. Okay. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a question about the light trail, as Councillor Powell suggested on page 20. The ecologists suggest that there has to be some screening erected to protect the nocturnal species, and it says including bats. I don't know how that would protect the bats. Not that I'm an expert in that, but I just wondered, is that effective enough for what it's supposed to do?
Is there anyone that can respond to that?
Well, I mean, it's a course of action that our ecologist suggested. It wouldn't be an issue around all the lighting, so it's not as if all the lighting that's proposed is going to have a fence around it. It would just be certain areas where it's nearer the parts that species sort of like bats were most likely to use, because it's relatively low level and the lighting is relatively low level. It is considered it would be possible to erect fences to deal with this issue. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And one final point regarding noise. You say that there's been and the report says there's been no noise assessment done and no noise management plan. So that's why it's suggested we go to 8 o'clock as opposed to 9. Would it have been customary to have had a noise assessment provided for this, given the potential impact on neighbouring amenity?
Yes, I mean, it's certainly something that we have requested as part of this application. And it's certainly something, if these hours were to be allowed on a permanent basis or were to be increased, we would expect to see that provided as evidence, along with a noise management plan regarding how any impacts were to be dealt with on that. In the absence of that having been provided in this case, there had to be consideration in conjunction with the environmental health officer as to what would be considered reasonable in this case. It was decided that 8 o'clock would be reasonable because it is earlier in the evening and less likely to cause disturbance up until that time. But obviously, because of the uncertainty as well, because we don't have that evidence in front of us, it's considered that a period of a year would be appropriate in case that does cause any difficulties. Obviously, as well, it does potentially give the applicant an opportunity to go away and gather that evidence and come back in with another application if they so wish. To try and get sort of further towards what they were looking for originally.
Thank you for very much for that. Thank you.
Okay, there's no further indication. The recommendations that permission be granted subject to conditions contained in the officer's report. Would anybody like to move that? Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Angel. Is it seconded? Seconded by Councillor Powell. And can we have a voting slip on it then, please? Please vote for, against, or abstain, and then press the submit button.
That's unanimously approved, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. And that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you for your attendance and your contributions. I wish you all a good night.
Good night, all. Thank you, Chair.